Chapter: The Haunting of Briarwood Elementary. Briarwood Elementary was an old brick building standing at the edge of town, shrouded in whispers and rumors. Built in the early 1900s, the school had seen generations of children pass through its doors. However, it was also the site of a tragic fire in 1925 that claimed the lives of several students and a teacher. Since then, stories of ghostly apparitions and strange occurrences had circulated, making Briarwood a place of fear and fascination. As the new school year began, a group of teachers and staff gathered to prepare Briarwood for reopening. Among them was Sarah, a young teacher excited about her first teaching job. Despite the stories she had heard, she was determined to bring life back to the old school. The town council had decided it was time to restore the building and utilize it once more, and Sarah was assigned to one of the newly renovated classrooms. On her first day, Sarah arrived early to get a feel for the place. The corridors echoed with the sound of her footsteps, and the musty smell of old wood and forgotten memories filled the air. She found her classroom, room 103, and began unpacking her supplies. The room had been cleaned and painted, but it still retained an aura of its past. As she set up her desk, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. One evening, while working late, Sarah noticed a strange chill in the air. She turned around and saw a faint outline of a young girl at the back of the room. When she blinked, the figure vanished, leaving Sarah questioning her sanity. Determined to understand what she saw, Sarah began researching the school's history. She discovered an old newspaper article detailing the tragic fire and learned about the victims, including a young girl named Emily. Emily had been a student in the very room Sarah now occupied. The fire had started in the middle of the day, trapping Emily and her classmates inside. Despite the efforts of the teachers and firefighters, many lives were lost. According to the article, Emily was last seen trying to help her friends escape before she succumbed to the flames. As the days passed, the paranormal activity intensified. Lights flickered, doors slammed shut, and whispers echoed through the hallways. Sarah's colleagues dismissed her concerns, attributing the events to the school's age. However, Sarah knew there was something more. One night, determined to confront the entity, Sarah stayed late in the school. The ghost of Emily appeared again, looking sad and lost. Sarah realized that Emily was trying to communicate something. Through a series of visions, Sarah saw the events of the night of the fire. Emily had been trapped and had perished while trying to help her classmates. Her spirit remained bound to the school, seeking closure. Sarah decided to investigate further and visited the town's historical society. She found more records about the fire and the subsequent renovations of the school. She also learned about Mrs. Henderson, the teacher who had died in the fire while trying to save her students. Mrs. Henderson's dedication to her students was legendary, and it seemed her spirit, too, might still be lingering in the school. One day, Sarah discovered a hidden attic above her classroom. The attic was filled with old school records, photographs, and personal belongings of the students and teachers who had perished in the fire. Among the items, she found a charred diary belonging to Emily. The diary detailed Emily's life, her friendships, and her love for school. The last entry was a heart-wrenching account of the day of the fire. Emily's diary revealed that she had a special bond with Mrs. Henderson. The teacher had been like a second mother to her, always encouraging her and believing in her potential. Emily's last entry described how Mrs. Henderson had tried to lead the children to safety but was overwhelmed by the smoke and flames. Armed with this new information, Sarah decided to hold a memorial service for the victims of the fire. She contacted the families of the deceased, inviting them to attend the service at Briarwood. The town's mayor, who was a descendant of one of the victims, also agreed to speak at the event. On the day of the memorial, the school was filled with people. Sarah had organized a display of photographs and memorabilia from the attic, allowing the families to connect with their lost loved ones. As the ceremony began, Sarah read aloud passages from Emily's diary, bringing the young girl's voice back to life. Tears flowed freely as the families remembered their lost children and the bravery of Mrs. Henderson. As the ceremony concluded, the school felt lighter and the paranormal activity ceased. Emily's spirit finally found peace, knowing that she and her beloved teacher were remembered and honored. The families thanked Sarah for her dedication and compassion, and the town council decided to install a permanent memorial plaque at the school commemorating the victims of the fire. With the spirits at rest, Briarwood Elementary reopened successfully. The school once again became a place of learning and joy, and Sarah continued her teaching career with a newfound sense of purpose. She often felt the presence of Emily and Mrs. Henderson, not as ghosts, but as guardians watching over the school and its students. Sarah's connection to Briarwood deepened over the years. She became a beloved teacher, known for her empathy and dedication. She would tell new students about the history of the school, ensuring that the memories of Emily and Mrs. Henderson lived on. The story of Briarwood Elementary became a lesson in courage, compassion, and the enduring power of memory. As the years went by, the town thrived, and Briarwood Elementary became a cornerstone of the community. The school's reputation grew, attracting families from surrounding areas. Sarah took on a mentorship role, guiding new teachers and sharing her experiences. She always emphasized the importance of understanding the past to build a better future. One spring, the town decided to celebrate the anniversary of Briarwood's reopening. The event was filled with festivities, including a special tribute to Sarah for her years of service. During the celebration, an elderly woman approached Sarah, introducing herself as Mrs. Henderson's granddaughter. She had heard about the memorial and wanted to express her gratitude for honoring her grandmother. The encounter was emotional for both women. Mrs. Henderson's granddaughter shared stories about her grandmother, painting a picture of a woman who was dedicated to her students and passionate about teaching. Sarah felt a deep connection to Mrs. Henderson, realizing that their paths had crossed for a reason. In her final years at Briarwood, Sarah wrote a book about the school's history, capturing the stories of its past and present. The book became a treasured piece of the town's heritage, passed down through generations. Sarah retired with a sense of fulfillment, knowing she had made a lasting impact on the community. Even after her retirement, Sarah remained involved with the school. She volunteered as a tutor, attended school events, and continued to share the story of Briarwood. Her legacy lived on, inspiring new generations of teachers and students to embrace the values of empathy, courage, and remembrance. Briarwood Elementary, once a place of tragedy, had transformed into a beacon of hope and learning. The spirits of Emily and Mrs. Henderson were at peace, their memories woven into the fabric of the school. And Sarah, the teacher who had brought their stories to light, was remembered as a hero in her own right. The haunting of Briarwood Elementary had ended, but the lessons it taught continued to resonate. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times, the light of compassion and understanding, and as long as people remembered the past, the spirits of those who came before would always be near, watching over and guiding those who followed.